Captain's log, stardate 94161.72.
We are embarking on a journey with Justin Lin, taking over from J.J. Abrams to boldly go where no one has gone before.
Unless you're Next Gen.
Or Voyager, Enterprise,
or the original.
or Deep Space Nine.
So guys, we went to go see Star Trek Beyond, and I loved it.
Yeah, if you are watching this, hopefully you saw it as well. But if you didn't, well, spoilers ahead. But Star Trek was definitely an episodic movie. Even Chris Pine in the beginning says that his journeys have become more episodic, which was kind of cool of a nod back to the original Star Trek. But it's kind of tells me where these movies are going to start going. That's what we want to see. We want to see more episodic movies, smaller movies on a much grander budget.
Right.
And that's what we got from this movie, and I was really, really happy. They started off on their journey already, which was definitely different from the first two movies.
Which I liked. They're kind of already in a groove, so you kind of just were right in smack in the middle of it, and that kind of brought the pacing for the movie
quick.
Yeah.
It's interchanging between the different characters, and it does that throughout the entire movie. It just gets on a much larger scale.
Right, I was engaged the whole time.
Yeah, even on the Enterprise, when they're jumping from character to character and what's going on the ship, and you see Chekhov, being the ladies' man, getting kicked out of the room, and everybody's got something different going on in the ship, which is great because it's that ship life that you want to see with them on the Enterprise. It's day to day. Every day is just kind of blending into one, which Captain Kirk says. And eventually they get their shore leave.
Right.
And the shore leave took us to Yorktown, which I thought was awesome. It was definitely on a grand scale of something like the Citadel from Mass Effect.
Yeah, or it kind of reminded me of what Tomorrowland should have been.
Definitely had the same feel. If they would have just gone more imaginative with it. I feel like Yorktown in this one definitely was just much grander. It was a huge bustling spaceport, which we really don't get to see. Kind of felt like Halo as well.
Oh yeah, a little bit.
Or Elysium, except, good. But Star Trek definitely did a great job with at least introducing us to that, Enterprise life, and the shore leave definitely gave us a little bit more info on the characters.
Right. I mean, there was the part, because, we saw, the news articles and stuff that said that Sulu was going to be gay, and I thought that in the movie they did it perfectly.
Subtle.
Very subtle. You saw him go and greet his husband, and then they just walk off. And I thought that that's how they should have just done it. They should have just left it there and just didn't say that he was gay. I just didn't think that they should have not, it doesn't matter if you announce it.
It was definitely not a huge thing.
Right.
Just let it happen and just go off and be with the family. And it was cool. It gave us a little bit of intimacy into Sulu as well. He had something writing on Yorktown, so that's what made this place very special to not just, humanity, but to Sulu
something
as well.
More deep, something that's more
deep-seated.
To the heart. Exactly.
And then they also introduced us to Grunberg, Greg Grunberg.
Oh yeah, as soon as he popped out on screen, I was like, uh-oh.
Snap Wexley.
What are you doing in Star Trek?
I know, you would expect him to be there throughout the whole thing because of JJ, but JJ's not even directing this one, and he's on screen quite a bit in this one. I felt like he was on screen more in this one than he was in The Force Awakens.
That's true.
Well.
But it was just funny to see him in there. But it's kind of cool that he was he did Star Wars and now he's doing Star Trek, and he was on Heroes too. So
definitely showed us a lot of the effects that they were bringing to the game as well.
Yeah.
Being on Yorktown. I mean, seeing all the different types of aliens too on the ship. I mean, that's what I liked about the first one, is you had this mix of practical aliens, CG aliens, and it just flowed well. It fit together very nicely.
Yeah, especially with the character that came to them, that was attacked.
Yeah.
You could tell, it didn't look CGI to me. It looked like they actually took the effort to make the prosthetics on the face and everything, which I thought was amazing. I love when they do that instead of making it CGI the whole time.
And then we move on. I mean, she obviously springs the trap on them, and they go and get attacked by Crawl.
Exactly. It's pretty funny how that whole scene happened because it totally reminds me of Galaxy Quest. And the whole part where Sarah's ship and they go through the mine and everything.
I'm dragging mines.
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna tear through your ship like tissue paper.
And it was the most action we got, I felt, in an Enterprise setting. We got to see so much happen on the Enterprise during this attack, and we only got a fraction of that, I felt like, in Star Trek Into Darkness when the ship is spinning and they're running along the walls. Like, I felt like we got a huge portion of that action happening on the Enterprise, which I had been missing from the other two movies. I mean, a lot of the stuff that happened on the Enterprise, like in the first movie, was just in the very beginning, and then from then on, not a whole lot happened.
Yeah, exactly. And then the second one, like you said, that was just the part where they're in hyperspeed, and it just doesn't. That was like the only part then, and then they fight on a freaking garbage truck. But
the garbage truck in Star Trek Into Darkness, but in Star Trek Beyond, I loved seeing, you saw it in the trailer, but the way that the enemy attacks the Enterprise just completely incapacitates them, and I just thought, damn, no hope. There's just no hope for these guys. And it reminded me very much like a swarm. It was totally like a swarm. The whole time I'm thinking, like, these things are definitely like hornets or something, working in a swarm, just burning through it, and cutting off the Enterprise. Everything.
Cutting off their head, essentially.
Yeah, and then not only that, but the stingers. Like, it felt like the stingers stuck in the ship, and they were attached. They were the venom that was inside the stinger, and this drone army essentially just comes out and starts annihilating everybody. And then even, like, they didn't explain a whole lot as to what happened to everybody other than the life force drained, but were they draining them as they go, or was it like venom that if you got shot by that green laser you turned green? I mean, they didn't really explain that very well as to what was happening. But the Enterprise, that of the effects, I didn't feel really at all that things were happening too much, and I couldn't see what the action was.
Right, because if there's too much like going on, then your mind kind of goes like,
and
like,
it's hard.
And it's hard to keep track.
Make heads or tails as to what's going on. So I felt very locked in as to what was happening, which also gave me. I was happy with Justin Lin. The fact that he was capable of giving us these great shots, and a lot of the shots were reminiscent of what JJ did, but I mean, a lot of it was the same team as well with Justin Lin.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of afraid at the beginning. It was like, Justin Lin, I mean, the guy who did Fast and the Furious, and I was like, okay, we'll see how this goes. I was just kind of a little wary as to see if he could do a sci-fi show, a sci-fi movie like Star Trek.
And one of the best things, you know, other than just the action scenes and being able to pull that off, it's the characters, the character just blending. I mean, are we going to get that love from Justin Lin, who did come from a huge ensemble cast from the Fast and the Furious, but like Star Trek has already kind of been touched by other directors as they move on, so can he just jump in and be able to get these guys who have already been working together to give us more than what we've seen before?
And I think that he probably had a lot of help by Simon Pegg as well, because I know he did a lot of the script writing too.
And the friendship that these guys have. When we saw Carl Urban at Phoenix Comic-Con last year, it's just these guys are a close-knit group of friends, and I think Justin Lin's integration really pushed it forward with the writing of Simon Pegg, and we got awesome just expansion on these characters, especially Bones.
Yes.
I mean,
there's a lot of Bones, and it was great because his humor, like, his humor was like very subtle and like just like to the point, basically, but it was
very
hilarious.
Bones. It was very Bones. I mean, it fit him so well, and we got little snippets of that in the first couple movies. You know, he had his shining moments, like when he was stuck with the nuclear bomb that wasn't a nuclear bomb.
Yeah.
I mean, this one, I laughed more in the first 15-20 minutes with Bones than I did in some of the other comedies that have come out this year.
Right.
I mean, Bones definitely had me cracking up, but yet he was that fabric that just kind of connected everybody, from him and Spock to him and Kirk. It was an awesome
and I thought,
pairing.
Another great one was Chekhov.
Absolutely.
I thought Anton Yelchin did a fabulous job, especially in this movie. And it was bittersweet to see him there, of course, but
they gave him so much more this time.
I love that it was like how ironic that he had a lot more in this movie. I mean, on a bad tragedy side, but I just thought that like they gave more to his character a little bit, like being the ladies' man.
Yeah, hitting on all the alien races. He was the Kirk. He was the Kirk.
Yeah, like at the end where he's talking to the girl, he's like talking about vodka.
Vodka, yeah, how it was made by some little old lady in Russia. I mean, it was awesome. And being able to interweave from Bones to Chekhov to Spock and what was going on with Spock and the loss of Spock to Scotty. Scotty. I love that Scotty was in it throughout. I've missed having Scotty throughout. Even in Star Trek Into Darkness, he gets fired and goes off and then eventually comes back and brings, the info about what they were doing, secretly on that moon base. But I just love that they were all there together throughout the whole thing, and that's another thing with Justin Lin. He kept the pacing as well in this movie, from the characters, from the villains, from what was going on between these struggles, like with Kirk and Spock, and they didn't tell each other yet who was doing what and what their intentions were later on.
Right, and normally in a movie, for me, I know I kind of get like bored when they have like the slow moments when they're just talking and kind of stuff like that. But in this movie, even with the talking between Bones and Spock when they're together on the ground, it was like I was very, very engaged as to what was going on with them, and then all of a sudden it drops into them almost getting attacked and then getting beamed up onto the USS Franklin, and then I just thought that it was boom, 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 and it was great.
And they did kind of get brought back together very quickly, and I thought Sophia, what was it, Butella something, Jayla shows up. I mean, it's great how she's the one who kind of brings them all close together so that way we can get on with this mission.
Yeah.
So, and the fact that she was there, it kind of reminded me of Zoe Saldana back when she was like doing Gamora's character, or like her character in Avatar, donning all the paint and you've got to just shine through this character, this alien race. But now Zoe Saldana gets to be Aurora. She gets to be the face character and not have to don all that extra stuff, and this other girl who's kind of an up-and-comer is jumping in and being what she has done in other movies, and she was a great addition to the crew as well.
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning in the trailers and stuff, I mean, we didn't get too much about her, but I just didn't feel any kind of connection. Like, I didn't know if she was like, man, like, is she gonna fit, what's gonna happen? And then as soon as the movie happened and as soon as like it started pacing out, I was like, okay, I like this character. I thought this character was great.
She was a good addition, and I hope they actually keep her when they go on to make Star Trek 4.
Yeah.
But one thing, too, that I was happy before we saw the trailers was the casting of Idris Elba. But one thing I wasn't happy about when I saw the trailer was how he was donning all that makeup. I was just kind of sad that, okay, well, it reminded me of Malekith, where you get
you could tell it's Christopher Eccleston. I thought I could totally tell it was Christopher Eccleston,
but I wanted Christopher Eccleston, and granted, I know you put all this stuff all over him, and it's like even Loki got to be Tom Hiddleston, and he got to be Loki with his,
facing and wearing the suit. And
absolutely. I mean, he got to be both, where he's in the full makeup and then he gets to be an actual humanoid type character. So when they do that with Idris Elba in this movie, I was so happy that it wasn't just the alien that we saw in the trailer, that, oh yeah, you have Idris Elba, you're using Idris Elba, and they brought it much more deeper than I thought it would go. Now granted, I'm not too happy that they didn't really explain as to how he came about
becoming
being able to look that way. Like, granted, he had his other two lieutenants or whatever, his helpers, but it's like they look that way, but did they use the technology that they found to turn themselves into that?
And it's like, was that the crew from the USS Franklin too? Because they did show like a video of them all being together Granted, that's
Case
how they
closed
that's
type
how they
thing.
found out that was them. But I was like, okay, so these aliens are the crew from the USS Franklin,
Yeah.
or it was just kind of left out.
And they didn't give us a whole lot of information on like the drone army either. It's like, oh, we found the drone army. It was just kind of left there.
Yeah.
So there were some things that were just not really flushed out. But on the surface, I thought they worked really well. And it also, that whole group kind of reminded me of Zur and the Kodan Armada from The Last Starfighter. Because Zur was a total humanoid, he was a Rylan, but he partnered up with the Kodan Armada and his two lieutenants to take
attack
out
the
the Rylans.
Starleague.
Yeah, they go after the Starleague base, and they're hanging out at the edge of the
They
frontier.
basically look like the same aliens. Anyways.
The aliens are identical except for a different color, the Kodans, and then they also have like their own little robot drone army too that they had control their planes and stuff, their ships, and that reminded me a lot of The Last Starfighter, but I was happy with it because it wasn't the Last Starfighter remake. They just took something, an idea, and made it better. Another thing was the weapon, the bioweapon that they had. Totally reminded me of the day the Earth stood still. Like Keanu Reeves and his little bioweapon that just kind of
Yeah.
eats everything up and moves on, like a nanotechnology might that just kind of runs through everybody, piranha,
Yeah, it
and
kind
just
of reminds
disintegrates
me
it.
of the one from Thor: The Dark World.
Yeah, very similar to that too. It just kind of floats around and destroys everything, but it was dangerous and it was threatening to their entire Yorktown. And I felt, it was a ticking time bomb situation.
Yeah.
But in those ticking time bomb situations, one thing I don't like is pushing one button to take out all the baddies. And that's what did happen in this movie, using the Beastie Boys nonetheless.
Yeah, that one, I think that was another
that
thing that I
music?
didn't like.
good choice.
Was like, it was kind of cool. Like, yeah, they used the Beastie Boys Sabotage song. That's fine, but I feel like not the whole way through. Like, that song was the reason why they all died, essentially.
Yeah, I didn't like that the song was the catalyst itself to make them all blow up, and then, why didn't the Bones blow up with Spock?
Yeah.
But the whole sabotage connection with the first movie made me happier about that first trailer that came out with it, because it actually had a big part in this movie. But to have it be the reason why they all get stopped and it's just down to the 3 ships that are going through and they have to chase that. Like, I mean, even some of my favorite movies, like the Avengers, do it. You take out one thing and then all the rest of them just kind of slump over. I don't like that plot device.
I mean, I kind of get why they do it, because they have a lot of time, and it's kind of, like, I don't know, it's like, you don't have enough time to put it in the movie, just get them one by one.
And it's a huge army, so you kind of have to take them out in a wave as well.
Yeah. Aside from the Beastie Boys being there, the music, the score, Michael Giacchino.
Yeah, Michael Giacchino, as always, bringing the score to the level of... I mean, I was really happy with that first Star Trek. I thought he did an amazing job because he throws homage to the theme that was created before it and brings it in and mixes them together to a point where it's perfect. It feels new, but yet it's familiar.
Right, and that's what I loved a little bit about how he did Jurassic World. He did that with that movie as well. And, like, in this movie, he did the same thing again. You kind of had a little bit lingering in the background of all of the other music that he was doing, but the theme was in there in little bits and pieces, like when they're doing the action parts and, like, when they're going and trying to save the people. You could kind of hear it a little bit in there, and I was like, Michael Giacchino is, like, the perfect composer to do that, because he brings the nostalgic back into the movie music, but also brings a new twist on it, a new take, essentially.
Using nostalgia right, and I think this movie did that very well. I mean, having Spock show up in the original Star Trek with J.J. Abrams' Star Trek, I mean, connecting it and just kind of resetting the whole thing. I know some people weren't happy about the reset of the canon, but I was very happy that they just hung on to that and didn't just brush it under the rug and say reboot.
Right.
And just throw little tips of the hat here and there for all the characters. This one, it's still the same world. It just got reset through time, which I love that they did that. They kept it timey-wimey. They kept Spock a part of it. They integrated the loss of Leonard Nimoy
Right, and that's
into the story.
That part, like, it brought me tears too when they did bring the fact that he passed away.
They did it very well.
They did.
Did it very well.
It was great.
And when he opens up the container and it has the picture and they play the music.
That got me too.
Perfect.
When you see the old crew and you see that, because all the stuff I guess in the box was his, like,
belongings,
and
personal
stuff.
effects.
Yeah, and
But
it was the picture. Of
even the lady
original
sitting
crew.
next to me, I could see her like wiping him away because it was a very powerful moment. I mean, it hanging on to that history is what made me really happy about these Star
And it
Trek
was
movies.
great when they showed the picture of the original crew too, as well, to show, like, it was kind of like happy 50th Star Trek without saying happy 50th, you know, because this year is the 50th anniversary for it. So showing that picture of the original crew, the original cast, was like an homage of, like, here's to 50 years of Star Trek, which I thought was awesome too.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. That's actually kind of brilliant. So really happy with what they put together in this movie. Really happy to see where we go next with it. Rumors that Chris Hemsworth is coming back, which if they want to get timey-wimey with it, that would be awesome. I'd be okay with that. But I feel like it's going to be more like a hologram, maybe, or flashbacks of some sort. I mean,
probably.
Why not go back to the whole flashback scenario? They did it already once in the first movie. They probably interlaced it in a second movie too with Khan. I don't remember if they showed a whole lot with what happened with them or they just discussed it. But either way, there was some stuff missing from that movie, and this movie definitely gave us what I wanted, which felt fresh. Even though I have seen certain devices in other movies, putting it in the Star Trek movie, it felt like it was all Star Treks. Yeah, I thought of The Last Starfighter while it was playing out, but all in all, I was completely invested because they were using it very well. So if you are going to take a little from other things that have already been done, using it effectively, I'm happy with it. So for me, I would probably give it, I had a lot of fun with it, so I'd say probably 4.5.
Yeah, that's where I was gonna go with it too. 4.4 out of 5, or 4.5 out of 5.
Maybe a 4 if I put the first Star Trek at 4.5, because that first Star Trek I really, really, really like. I love Nero. I don't like him as a villain, but I just like Eric Bana as Nero. But yeah, it's 4 or 4.5. It's definitely up there. I enjoyed it. I will see it again.
Yes.
We will add it to the collection. But either way, it was
Yep, definitely.
a good job.
So thanks guys for watching our review to Star Trek Beyond. And if you didn't see the green hand in the credits, go watch it again.
Yeah, we do appreciate it. Give us an upvote, downvote, like, subscribe, do the thing, you know the drill. And for Leonard Nimoy,
And Anton Yelchin.
Godspeed.